The house stood like a model home torn from a magazine, too flawless to feel lived in. Mari had made sure of that. The scent of cinnamon drifted through every corner, thick and artificial. The jazz playing from the wireless speakers, not a note out of place. It was all carefully curated, just like her life. I stepped into the foyer and was immediately met by Cassidy Rowe's warm smile. She hugged me briefly, whispered, "Brave to show up," and moved aside. That was all. No questions, no probing, just acknowledgement. I appreciated that. Everyone else, though, made no effort to mask their stares. Judgment shimmered in the air like humidity before a storm. They like me most when I say nothing, I told myself as I stood quietly near the mantel, pretending to admire the decor. In truth, I scanned the room. Laughter bubbled around Mari, her blonde hair cascading like some Pinterest bride, her dress perfectly cinched. Praise followed her like perfume. I barely got a nod from my father, Conrad. His handshake was firm, impersonal, like a salesman closing a deal. He didn't ask how I'd been. He never did. Mari's voice rang out. "Tour time." The herd followed, and I trailed, unseen, unheard. Mari beamed through every room. Quartz countertops, French doors. Drusilla, our mother, hovered behind like an approving ghost. Her pearls glinted, her silence sharper than any blade. "At the final room," she said it. "Finally, one of my daughters is doing something right." A brittle chuckle rippled through the group. My spine stayed straight. I said nothing. We moved back to the main room. Conversations orbited around Mari's success like obedient planets. I sipped my drink, nodded where needed, and faded. Then came the whisper, strategically loud enough. Didn't her engagement fall apart too? Poor thing. It was a cousin. Same blood, different venom. My hand trembled just slightly. I set my glass down before anyone could notice. My pulse steadied. Silence again served as armor. A flicker of memory returned. Me alone on a dock, dress in a garment bag that never left the hanger, phone lighting up with absence. But I folded it away neat and tight. Mari's fiancé, Blake, chimed in near the fireplace. Some women just don't have the timing. His eyes didn't meet mine. Of course not. Predators don't look at what they've already mauled. I turned. Bella, always Mari's shadow, stepped toward me with a gift bag. "Thought this might cheer you up," she said, her smile too wide. Inside was a pale pink book, How to Find Love at Any Age. Tucked within was a note, "We're worried about you." The laughter started small. Cousins, in-laws, someone from Mari's tennis club. It grew. I looked at the book, then at Bella. I nodded once. "Thank you." I placed it on the console table like it was on fire. They mistake silence for weakness, I reminded myself. Mari chuckled loud and clear. Maybe this will help her. The room erupted. Even the caterer smirked. I glanced toward the door. Rowan wasn't there. He wouldn't be, not yet. But I imagined him watching, the way he does, unblinking calm. He was always the anchor. Blake poured more wine into my glass, leaning close. "Don't worry, Elara. At least you're not homeless." My gaze met his, cold and steady. I said nothing. Across the room, Cassidy's smile had vanished. Her eyes found mine, flicked to the book and then to Bella. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Dinner was called. We moved like chess pieces around a grand dining table. Polished mahogany, crystal glasses, silverware heavy enough to be symbolic. Drusilla stood at the head, her hand lifting a goblet of aged red. "To Mari," she said, voice smooth, "for building not just a house, but a future." She turned, eyes landing on me. "And Elara, your sister's house is perfect. When is it your turn?" The room hushed. Even the air held its breath. I lifted my glass, sipped slowly. Let them wait. 2 days ago. A fork clattered. Mari's face blanched. Her lips parted, but no sound came. Conrad looked like someone had spilled wine on his ledger. Drusilla blinked once. Then her expression tightened, recovering in real time. I placed my glass down, looked around the table. They asked for an answer, I thought. I gave them a truth they weren't ready for. The air didn't move. Not even the ceiling fan dared hum. I stood there, my glass still catching the candlelight, their stares drilling into me like scalpels. Mari's frozen smile was the first to crack. Her eyes darted to Drusilla, who didn't blink. Conrad shifted, hands twitching against his napkin. I reached into my purse, calm as a surgeon. Out came a USB and a black remote. No theatrics, just movement, smooth, deliberate. The TV on the wall still displayed a faux fireplace loop, dancing flames that offered no warmth. I walked to the console. "Elara," Conrad started, tone already fraying. "This isn't necessary." I didn't answer. Words were currency here, and they had devalued mine for years. Remote in hand, I killed the fire. The screen flickered black, then to desktop. My cursor hovered over the folder. For a second, I let the silence eat itself. Cassidy, sitting quietly to my left, angled her phone beneath the table. Recording. I caught her nod. It was enough. Click. The screen bloomed into color, my wedding photo. I stood on a beach in ivory lace, wind tousling my hair. Rowan beside me, sun painting our vows in gold. Someone gasped. The slideshow began. Clip 1, Bella in Mari's kitchen, holding a wedding invitation, laughing. Mari beside her, mimicking a fake sob. Then Bella ripping the invite in half. "Oops," she grinned into the camera. Clip 2, a FedEx worker, testifying on camera. Yes, I delivered it to the address. Do not discard, clear as day. He held up the scanned receipt. Clip 3, an email chain, Drusilla to a bank manager. Subject, urgent. Message, Elara Quinn's mortgage paperwork must be paused. Financial instability suspected. Proceed accordingly. Drusilla's fingers tightened around her fork. She didn't speak. She never did when she was cornered. I didn't just come with a story, I told myself. I brought the receipts. Conrad stood, reaching toward the TV like it might burn the room down. Before he could touch it, Rowan appeared in the hallway. He said nothing at first, just crossed his arms. Then, flatly, let it play. The final clip loaded. A wide shot of the beach. People gathered in a semicircle. Sunset sky. A violin hummed faintly. I stepped barefoot onto the sand, veil trailing. Rowan waited ahead, hands folded. The footage was dated 2 days ago. He kissed me beneath the palms, the crowd applauded. And my signature was signed beneath legal ink. The room didn't breathe. Mari stood, fists clenched. This is fake. You edited it. I stayed silent. The next clip rolled without pause, audio only this time. Mari's voice. She thinks she's clever with that pathetic secret ceremony. Like anyone cares. She'll always be second best. The audio cut. Cassidy covered her mouth. The guests glanced at each other, the unease now physical. I turned toward Mari. You recognized it fast, for someone who hadn't seen it. Carter, her fiancé, rose slowly. His voice cracked the stillness. I've seen that clip before, he said. I didn't know she'd lie about it. Gasps. Drusilla stood and walked out of the dining room like smoke leaving a room. Not a word, just the click of her heels. Conrad remained. His hands, once so authoritative, now curled in his lap like forgotten tools. People whispered. One woman started texting under the tablecloth. The unraveling had begun. Cassidy looked at me, brows drawn. Why didn't you tell anyone? Because it was never about celebration, I said. It was always about control. Mari's voice cracked. You ruined everything. No, I said quietly. You destroyed it before I arrived. I just showed everyone what it looked like. The room, once my courtroom, became Mari's confessional. Carter removed his ring, slow, precise, and placed it on the table like a verdict. I don't marry liars. Mari crumpled into her chair. I turned, walked slowly, purposefully. No slammed doors. No rage. Just my heels against the polished floor. Silence roared behind me. As I stepped outside into the cold night air, a single notification lit up my screen. Message from Drusilla. The whispers started before I reached the door. Voices once confident now scrambled for safety in numbers. Low murmurs, shocked gasps, the frantic tapping of phones. The soundscape of disintegration. Outside, someone filmed through the curtain. I didn't stop them. Let the world see. I turned one last time. Mari crumpled against her chair, mascara streaking in defiance of perfection. Conrad still sat, elbows on knees, staring at the table like it betrayed him. Cassidy met my eyes calm. Behind her, Carter stood with his hands in his pockets, the ring still lying cold between them. I leaned toward Cassidy and said, just loud enough, "Watch them walk themselves out." She gave a barely perceptible nod. I didn't need applause. Outside, the night wrapped around me like velvet. The warm Charleston breeze carried the distant scent of the harbor, a contrast to the synthetic cinnamon that still clung to my coat. I walked past the luxury cars, the manicured hedges, the polished gates. Not in retreat, this was my exit cue. My car was parked just far enough to remind me I hadn't belonged. I slid into the driver's seat and started the engine, the quiet hum grounding me. 15 minutes later, I pulled into the driveway of my house. My house. Not a symbol. Not a trophy. A roof, a floor, for walls that didn't judge or perform. 2 days ago, Rowan had handed me the keys. No speeches, he'd said. Just you, the house, and whatever comes next. I'd smiled without words. Now I stepped through the door, into silence that felt like a hug. The message came before I could hang up my coat. You embarrassed us. You will regret this. Drusilla. I read it twice. No surprise. Just punctuation. I deleted it. No reply. Sometimes the loudest thing you can say is nothing at all. I poured a glass of wine, white, cold, crisp, and stood in the middle of the living room. The furniture was still sparse. The rug was crooked, but it was mine, and I had walked in through the front door. I woke early the next morning. No alarm, just the light peeking through gauzy curtains. The Charleston harbor glowed in the sunrise, soft pinks, sleepy golds. I stepped out onto the porch barefoot, coffee steaming in hand. I tapped out a message to Cassidy. Lunch at 1? My treat. I hesitated before sending, then hit send. Small, clean steps forward. In my inbox, a new subject line blinked. I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't open it. Instead, I created a folder named Later and moved it there. Forgiveness can't be forced. It has to arrive when it's ready and not a moment before. As I sat on the floor unpacking another box, I came across the photo. Me and Rowan on the beach, sun behind us, wind in our hair. We were laughing like two people who had nothing to prove. I pressed the frame against my chest for a moment. They wanted me to shrink, to ask for space. I built my own instead. I wasn't the daughter who failed. I was the daughter who left. I placed the photo on the mantel, beside a vase of eucalyptus. And just as I turned to close the front door, I noticed the badge on my phone still blinking. Unread. The door clicked shut,